Hey guys, welcome. This video is on the Einthoven Triangle. I've had a few of my students ask me for clarification on this. Essentially, what is the actual difference between these, unipolar leads and bipolar leads and stuff like that, because they get questions on them, and you will also get questions on them with National Registry. So just a quick overview of electrophysiology. So essentially, one of my biggest issues with a lot of these medic books is that they throw this picture up there and then they label it, right? And you look at that and you're like, 132, like that's kind of weird. But one thing that I really don't like about it is that when you relate this to cardiology, right? Because essentially we're looking at, with this, essentially it's like a two-dimensional picture of the heart. And when you look at it, you go, okay, well, hold on a second. One, I know typically with one is more or less like a lateral view. It's usually coming in from the side, right? You got AVL, 1, V5, V6, and they're looking at it through this lateral view. But a lot of your books will put this up there, and they put this diagram up there, and you see one on top. And it doesn't make sense. You're like, one doesn't look down. It looks in from the side. So why would it be there, right? And 2 and 3, well, those are inferior wall, like 2, 3 AVF, that's inferior wall. Why are they on the sides? So essentially what they did in your books, and they don't really clarify this, is that what they're doing is they're labeling the planes. So what I mean is that, like, this is the first plane. One is not up here, one is over here looking in this direction. They just put the 1 there because it's labeling that plane. Same with 2 and 3. Usually you'll see 3 written here, but technically 3 is here, looking in this direction. This is the plane, and it just labeled it. That's it. And the same with 2. 2 is technically here, right? And 2 is looking in this direction, okay? Now, these are what they call bipolar leads. So kind of a good thing to remember is that these are the only bipolar leads. Or I should say, these leads are the only ones that are bipolar. So what I mean is the rest are unipolar. So your chest leads or your precordial leads, those are unipolar leads. Your augmented vector leads, those are unipolar leads. That means they're only looking in one direction. So sometimes you'll see, like, the books will say, well, bipolar leads means that they can change their pole. And you're like, what does that mean? Well, to understand that, let me get rid of all this. To understand that, a pole, right, technically it has a positive end and a negative end, okay? And when you think of positive, right, the positive, think of that as the eyes. That's the looker, okay? And the negative, think about that as the focus point. So what I mean is, like, take lead 1, for example. We put lead 1 here, okay? Now lead 1, think of that as the positive. It's looking. So then we'll do that. We'll put positive here, okay? And if 1 is looking in this direction, well, it needs something to focus on, okay? And technically you can run EKGs without negatives, but it's like very distorted. Think about it almost like a beam of light. It's looking, but without something to focus on, it just widens out and it becomes very distorted, and you don't get a good picture. So if we're using lead 1, and I want to get a good picture, let me add a negative. Boom. So there. Now 1 has something to focus on. Okay? And we'll do the same with the other. So, like, let's take 3. Okay? So 3 looks up in this direction, right? Well, 3 will make positive. But up here, I need a negative. Okay? So you see what I've done is that now I have a negative and a positive. Put 2 here. 2 is positive because it's looking up in this direction, right? Okay, we'll put another negative there. what's important to remember about this is that sometimes you'll get questions, and on those questions, they'll literally ask you, in the right shoulder, is that a double positive, double negative, or a positive negative pole? And looking at this would be the right. Now you know it's negative. Why is that? Because literally everything is looking at it, okay? And I need a double positive, or excuse me, a double negative up here. Whereas the left shoulder is going to be your negative and positive. And they won't write the bottom like this. What they'll do is they'll take both of those and they'll just put double positive in the lower left, okay? And that's what they mean by bipolar. This is the only time that you're going to see this, where you have the ability to technically change poles, because positive because he's looking, and negative because it's also a focal point, okay? Now, one other thing that I want to add on to this is that with your fancy monitors, right, your $30,000, $40,000, $60,000, whatever they are now, your monitors will actually take the triangle that that you've created. Your monitor has created the Einthoven Triangle, giving you an environment. Okay? And the cool thing about your monitor is now it can take this, it can take measurements and give you fake leads. So what I mean is it can give you augmented, which means fake, vector, like electrical view, it augmented vector leads. So what it will do is it'll take the Einthoven Triangle and it will split them. It'll actually figure out the exact halfway point and it will split them. Now what it can do is it can do take AVF, for example, augmented vector lead floor, foot, whatever you want to call it. Takes that measurement, and now this being a looker, so it's positive, can look up at this new created negative that your monitor has made for you. And it can do the same with the other two. Take this guy and this guy, we can go augmented vector lead left. Takes that, and that is the looker, so it's looking down into this direction. Okay, that would be the new negative. That's the new focal point. Same with AVR. Okay, and then this guy technically looks in this direction. And there you go. Now you not only have bipolar leads, thank you to the Einthoven Triangle, now you have augmented vector leads, which are positive leads. Okay, don't confuse that. Be careful, because this is always listed up here as the double negative bipolar, okay? But technically AVR is positive. So that's where it does get a little confusing. But what's really cool about this is once it has created all this, it creates a central point. That's the Wilson Central Terminal. What's really neat about that is it has now created the ultimate negative. So now we can take additional leads. Now I can take this and go from a two-dimensional view to a three-dimensional view. And now I have precordials that I can add to this that can all focus their view on this wonderful central point that we've created. And one other thing to add is technically that's not the center of the heart. If it's done correctly, that's the center of the left ventricle that it's focused on, because that's our main thing to focus on in cardiology, because the left ventricle is technically where the cardiac output, really comes from. So hope it helps, guys. Thanks.